How are we all doing? So, welcome to your first official tutorial within the Computer Applications module. And today we're going to be looking at kind of the introduction, a really good introduction to Adobe Illustrator and kind of the key sort of basic tools you'll be using to help you draw and create artwork from a blank canvas. And we're going through some of those steps today. So, if you open up your packs, you'll find this document here, chess.ai, and basically you can use that to follow what's going on screen and sort of set up your artwork and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just give you a quick tour of Adobe Illustrator. So if you click in here, so on your left hand side here, once you've created your document, obviously you'll have your cursor tools. So these obviously adjust the cursor, and these are things you can kind of do directly on screen. Up top then will be options related to what cursor you picked. So example, if I click the type tool, you see now I get type options up here. If I click the shape tool, I get shape options, and so on and so forth. And then on the right hand side then are your windows. And basically you can set up your canvas in a way that kind of suits you. So if you use a particular tool more than others, you can set up the canvas so that this is out ready. And anything, if I ever say to you, if I refer to the right hand side and you can't find it, always come to window. And then basically then what you can do, if you want a particular option, you just click it and it will appear over here, and you can kind of drag these things into the sidebar and then kind of drag them out when you need them then. So like you said, and it kind of works the same really with Photoshop and InDesign. All of them kind of use this particular layout. So let's come to Adobe Illustrator. So obviously, the clues in the name. It's all about illustration, all about creating artwork and drawing. And there's a kind of a few really fundamental basics you need to kind of get your head around before you can start using this piece of software properly. So I'm just going to come over to this side here. And so I'm using the hand tool here. So if I click this one here, let's just zoom that out. I can use the hand tool to sort of pull myself across the screen. And if I want to zoom, I can use the zoom tool here, and if I drag to the right, zooms in, and drag to the left, it zooms out. Or I can use Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out. So again, very simple. So as you can see here, I've got some key phrases on this canvas here, and I'm just going to quickly go through what they mean. So we come to path. Basically, everything you draw or any artwork done in Illustrator is, as we've discussed, vector artwork. What vector means is that it's built on a series of mathematical equations, unlike pixel art, which is built on sort of little blocks of pixels. Vector art is great because you can scale, you can make it as big or small as you want, and it won't affect the quality of the artwork. You can use this stuff to make it as you please. So a path is anything, basically everything in Illustrator is made up of paths, and we can use these tools here to create paths. And then anchor points then are the points on the structure of the object, which basically dictate kind of where something happens. So you can see, if I come to my direct selection tool here, I can see within the circle I've got 4 anchor points here. And those anchor points basically depict a change in direction, and a change in angle. And you kind of understand this a little bit more as you start creating more artwork. So remember, path and anchor point. Now, let's come down to our second kind of most common things we're going to be using here. It's fill and stroke. So basically, whenever you draw anything within Illustrator, the path and the anchor points will then kind of be substituted then by fill and stroke. Now, fill and stroke is controlled down here. Now, you can see with this object here, I've just got fill selected and no stroke. And then if I come to the stroke one, I've got stroke selected and no fill. And obviously, I can use, if I fill the fill there, I can use fill and stroke together. And basically, what you want to think of fill and stroke as is kind of when you think about when you draw the outline first, which would be the stroke, and then obviously you add the color kind of either as you go or afterwards. So that would be fill. So think of it as drawing and coloring essentially. So whenever you draw something from scratch, what you'll tend to do is get rid of the fill, make sure your stroke is on, and then you'll draw using the stroke as a guide, and then once you finish, then you can kind of go in and add the color afterwards. So like I said, just be wary that fill and stroke are kind of down in this left-hand corner here, and it's very important that you you sort of be able to differentiate between them. And then finally, then selection, direct selection. So selection tool up top here and direct selection are kind of the two most common you'll be using in terms of your cursor. Now, selection tool is very simple. It simply allows you to move, rotate, or kind of resize an object. So, like I said, if I select this here, I can move it around. I can use the bounding box to rotate it, and obviously also I can resize and sort of squeeze in or pull out the object. But as you'll notice, the structure of the object is not changing. The anchor points are still in. Now that is where your direct selection tool comes in. So if I come up to the top, click direct selection, now you can see a different box appears where you can see now I've got my anchor points and my curves of my anchor points. Yeah. So if I click there, now you can see I can change the structure of this object. And again, I can move this one around. I can change the curve. And then if I come back to selection tool, then I can select this. Well, I'm sorry, let's come out of that. Just went into isolation mode. I can select that. I can move this thing around, yeah, and rotate it. But like you said, the structure of the shape is not changing. So remember that whenever you want to move, rotate, or resize, you use the selection tool. And when you want to physically go in and change the structure of shape, use the direct selection tool. And always remember what tool you're on, yeah, whether you're type tool, whether you're pen tool, selection or direct selection. Make sure you're looking at the cursor and working out kind of what mode you're in. It's really important. Okay, so we're going to sort of start with some kind of basic tracing here. We're going to trace a chess piece. Yeah, I'm going to trace this chess piece here, and I'm just going to bring this over here and zoom it in. So this is kind of what we're after, really, and I'll talk about coloring later. You see now I've traced this chess piece here using a kind of variety of Illustrator's tools, and you can see now I've created this here. And when you kind of break that down into simple objects, you can see here's all the kind of individual components of the chess piece. And you can see these are all complete paths, yeah, and I'll explain that to you a little bit later. And basically, when you draw something in Illustrator, what you're looking to do is break the object down into simple shapes and work out the best way to achieve that shape, yeah. So we'll give that a try very quickly. So if you just come back to this canvas here. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go to File, Place. And what I'm going to do is locate the chess.jpg picture. I'm just going to zoom this out a sec, and I can place that in there, yeah. Now what I'm going to do is just resize this so that it's the size of the canvas, and put that there. Brilliant. Now if I come over to my Layers panel, click that there. Obviously, remember, if you can't find it here, come up to Window and locate Layers there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to lock this layer, yeah. Or first, sorry, what I'm going to do, if I click this, and come to opacity, set that to say 20%, yeah, come off and now lock it. Basically this means it's going to be a lot easier for me to trace this when it comes down to it. And what I'm going to do is create a new layer. And what this means now, kind of like in Photoshop, which we'll talk about later on, when I trace this object here, it's going to be a lot easier because I won't have this background layer kind of getting in the way. And Illustrator, you don't have to be overly excessive with layers, but it does help when you get very complicated artwork. You could name your layers, like for example, top of the chess piece, middle and bottom. You can have those on separate layers. It's kind of down to you, really. So I'm just going to zoom in, use the hand tool to pull myself across. Now, there's a number of ways I can kind of attack, sort of drawing this chess piece. And like I said, what you're trying to do is work out the, what kind of shape you want to draw, and then the best way to sort of create that shape. So, for example, here I've got pretty much a ellipse, a circular shape. So I've got a number of kind of tools around here that can help me draw that. But what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use the Ellipse tool. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click Default Fill and Stroke, and I'm going to make sure I've got no fill on. Select Stroke. And then what I can do as well with Stroke is I can come over to my Stroke panel. Again, if you can't find it, go to Window. And I'm going to bring that down to like a 0.5 just to kind of makes my life easier. I'm going to make sure if I go to View, Smart Guides. I'm going to make sure my Smart Guides are on. And now, when I start drawing, you can see now, see this kind of like green line that's appearing? That's basically, Smart Guides will allow you to align certain things up and draw more accurately. So whenever you're doing technical drawing, make sure you go to View, Smart Guides, and that'll make your life a lot easier. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply click and drag over. And what I can do, if I hold Shift, I get a perfect circle. And I can just bring that to say about there. That's great. Use my selection tool, bring that across. And now what you can see here, if I just kind of zoom in, pull the hand up, you can see like this little bit's a little bit lower and this bit's a bit. So what I can do, use my direct selection tool, and I can click there, bring that down. You know, like I said, I can even maybe bring that up a touch, you know, or bring it down depending on what I want to achieve, something like that, yeah? And you can see we've very simply drawn that part of the chess piece. So let's attack the next bit. So we've just got a tiny little bit here, which I think we could replicate very easily with the rectangle tool. So I'm just going to click there, pull that across, and like I said, that there, and I've got that little section there sorted. Now I've got this section here. So there's a sort of couple of ways I could do this. I could use the pen tool, which I'll come to very shortly, but what I could do is use the rectangle tool, draw that out to there. Again, like I said, you know, my Smart Guides will help you line this up. And then what I could do is use the direct selection tool and then use my arrow keys to bring that back to there. And then I could bring that into there. And the same with this one, drag that across to there. And I've created the next bit. And you work through the shape like that methodically, you know, so you kind of come down to the next bit, do that, and so on and so forth. So what about this pen tool I've been talking about? Okay, well, let's come over to the left-hand side, click my pen tool, and there we go. It's got sorted. And what I'm going to do to kind of demonstrate the pen tool to you, I'm just going to come over to what you will find in your downloadable packs, which is called the Pen Tool Exercises document. And this document is a fantastic document, but basically goes through all the fundamentals of the pen tool and the best way to kind of use it. I'm not going to go through this all, you know, this is something that you can do in lesson, but basically the pen tool is something that gives a lot of people headaches, but what you got to remember with the pen tool is was only ever designed to do two things. Like I said, I've just take my fill off there, just stroke. Pen tool was designed to create straight lines, and the pen tool was designed by clicking and dragging to create curved lines. And that's all the pen tool is designed to do. Straight lines by click, click, curved lines by click and drag, yeah? And there's other kind of things you can do with it. You know, if you hold Alt, you can dictate kind of where the next curve is going. If you hold Command, you can kind of replicate curve and so on and so forth. But this document here will demonstrate all this stuff to you, you know. So what I want you to do, guys, is work through this methodically. And like you said, you know, you can, if I bring the weight up on this, you know, you can work through this step by step, and you can slowly but surely start drawing, you know, replicating these objects. And if I come down to the curve lines, so like you said, you know, start from 1, click and press, drag here to release. And if I come down to 3, drag there to release, and you can see I'm slowly starting to build up this shape by following, click and drag, following what this document is asking me to do. And like I said, as you go on, you know, it will, you know, show you more about the pen tool and the kind of cool stuff you can do. So it's really important, guys, you do this exercise. Yeah, it will just help you understand the pen tool and basically make you realize that it's not a difficult tool to use. You know, it's just all about straight lines and curved lines. So fantastic. Once you got your head around that, you'll come back to your chess piece then. So let's look at something like this. Say, right, well, I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, well, that's a curve there. That's a kind of really, you know, something that we could really kind of easily replicate with the pen tool. So if I click the pen tool and I click, say, there, and I'm just going to hold Shift to get a straight line to say there, and then what I can do is come down to here and then I can click and drag. And like I said, if I use Alt, hold Alt, I can dictate where the next curve goes. I can bring that curve, say, up to there. Fantastic. Now, obviously, when you're tracing something, you want to be intelligent about this. You've got to think, right, well, where can I use, other things I've already drawn or things I've, done before to replicate some things. And you can see here, this side is, pretty much this replicated. So, if I use the selection tool, select this. Now, if I press Command and C, I can copy an object. And if I press Command and V, I can replicate that object. Or, if I hold that and I hold the Alt key, you can see now my cursor changing, and I click and drag, I can replicate that object there. Then if I go to Object, Transform, and Reflect, and obviously I want to reflect in the vertical axis, click OK. And then what I can do, I can use my Smart Guides to line that up. And then if I come back to my pen tool, and see now this little thing here, what it means is connecting path. And I can bring that across to there. And you can see that little circle now, that means connect the path. Fantastic, connect that up. And then from here then, I can click that one and connect that one up to there. And then I've got this section. So, and you can see now how you can start using a combination of the shape tools, pen tools. We'll look at other things in the future like pencils and brushes and all that. But for today, we're going to keep this technical, we're going to keep this simple. We're just going to use the shape tool, and we're going to use the pen tool. Now, once we've kind of created an object as well, we can always kind of make changes to this. So as I said, if I use a direct selection, I can kind of attack this anchor point here, or I can change this curve here. But what I can also do is to a shape that's already kind of created, I can add anchor points, or I can delete them or manipulate them. So if I come over to my pen tool, and you see I've got add, delete, and convert anchor points. So if I come to add, and I click there, see now I'm adding an anchor point. I can add one there, can add one there, and then basically when I use my direct selection tool, which is hotkey A, I can then create an even more complicated shape. Or I can come over to my delete anchor point tool, and I can get rid of that anchor point. So again, really, really good that you can be aware of kind of that, and how once you've created a shape, it doesn't have to be that shape. Then you can go back and manipulate it. And I can also, if I click with the direct selection tool, click there, and I press backspace, I can completely break the shape, and then I can go back in then, Command hotkey P, go back in my pen tool, and start building this back up. So I want you to work on this chess piece here, and I want you to slowly and surely build up, the kind of different shapes until, like I said, let's just zoom this out, come over to this side, we've got something that looks like that. And I've used a combination of different kind of shapes here. And then, like I said, I've broken all this down for you to see all the different kind of shapes and things we've got going on here. So that's fantastic. So once we're at this stage here, if I just, unlock this layer, because that's on the bottom layer, just lock that in. So we've got this shape here. Now, what we want to do from here is we want to start coloring this in. We want to add some kind of personality to it, and make it kind of look 3D and really kind of bring it out of the page. And if I come over to my right hand side here, that's kind of what we're aiming for, something like this. So if I just Command C, Command V, duplicate that, and you can see here how I've added a load of kind of textures and different colors and stuff to it to replicate the surface of the chess piece. And something like this is very simple to do. So if I just come back to my other one here. So what we're going to do here, right, I'm just going to move this kind of off there, so we've got the original piece. Now, when adding color to, when using colors even within Illustrator, if I just ungroup that there, and like I said, if you want to group things up, guys, you hold them, highlight what you want to group, press group. Basically now, all this will move together, and then if I want to ungroup them, undo group, and then now those things are separate again. You know, so again, really good, simple things for you to pick up. So if I want to add some color to this, right? So I'm going to click here, and obviously I'm going to want to use my fill. Now, what you can do, you can double click, and you can kind of select colors, you know, from the palette you've got here. But you know, I think that's kind of quite a, you know, a naive way to do it, and I think there's better ways to do it. And the way I think that the color should be added is by using the Swatches panel here. Now you see there's a lot of preset colors here that's already been kind of placed in. And basically what you can do is if I come across to my right hand side here and I use my color picker tool or my eyedropper tool, what I can do is I can select colors that I want from this chess piece, and then I can save them in here, and then I can kind of reapply them there. So I'm just going to pick maybe kind of that light color going on, and then click New Swatch. It's going to say yes, color mode RGB, yep, whatever you want. Clicks, you know, obviously here in CMYK, you use CMYK. Click OK, and I've created a new color. So maybe I can get a bit of a darker brown on the go. Click there, and then maybe an even darker one. Click there, and then finally, you know, maybe I could get the fourth color. And click there, and you can see I've added 4 new swatches. Now, if you want to do this in a completely new swatch, all you've got to do is click New Color Group, and it will create a color group from scratch. Click OK, and like you said, I can add those new colors into this specific part there, or I can just add them to the main area there. It doesn't matter. Now, if I come up to my chess piece here at the top, now if I go to fill and just click there, obviously I can add, you know, different colors to fill. And you know, obviously if you're using flat vector artwork, that's great. You know, you're using one color for things, absolutely fine. You'll just apply one color, and then you know you can come down to the stroke. Take the stroke off, and you've got that. But obviously we want to go a little bit further than that. I think, yeah, this is a 3D object, we want to make it look realistic. So what we can do with that is we can come to our gradient tool, which is up here with me. I'm just going to pull this out. Again, remember, if you can't find the gradient tool, you go to Window, Gradient, and pull it out from there. Now if I click Gradient Slider, and again, with this, guys, make sure you haven't selected stroke, you're on your fill, yeah, because obviously you can apply this to a stroke as well. So if I click Fill, and now I've got gradients, yeah? Now the great thing is about the swatches and the gradient slider is, as you can see, I can dictate where the colors kind of merge and everything, which is great. But what I can do is if I click this color here, and I hold the Alt key, what I can do then is add in a color from my swatches panel. So I can add that one in there. And already, you know, you can start to see, you know, we've got a little bit more of a, you know, a bit more kind of feel to it, you know, it looks a little bit more 3D. So if I want to add more colors, I just got to click. And if I want to remove colors, I click and drag and I pull them out, yeah? So I've got a third color here. Click it, hold Alt. I'm going to select that color there. And then maybe finally I'll add one more and click and drag an even darker one, yeah? Now what I can do with this, we've obviously got a very rounded kind of thing going on here, so I can switch my gradient to a radial gradient. And then maybe kind of switch my colors around. So you've got that, and now you can start to see something come together a little bit, yeah? Now the great thing is about the radial gradient as well is that you get a lot more control with it than this kind of panel here. And all I got to do is either go to my gradient tool or click G. And once I click G, you can see now I can move this gradient tool, or I can make it bigger or smaller, and I can even, with on, I can change how the colors react and how they merge within the slider, you know. And like I said, I can move it around and kind of do what I want with it, you know, bring that down there, make that a bit brighter, you know, and start really playing around with it like that, yeah? Like I said, you know, maybe I want to get rid of that. I don't think it's relevant. I can do that. And you can start to see now how you would slowly but surely build up the shape of this. You know, obviously something like this, you know, you might want to use a linear gradient. You can see there. And then I can, you know, color pick from here and have specific kind of linears. And the good thing is about the thing, it doesn't have to, the radial gradient doesn't have to be on a straight angle. You know, you can select the angle that it's at there, or you can simply click and drag where the gradient goes. Remember, with your gradient tool, press G, and you can even change where this appears on the object. And then once you finish, then you take off the stroke, and you build it up like that. And if we come over then to my final piece, you can see now I've really kind of taken my time on this one. You know, I've really, you know, sort of pulled a lot of different colors, and I've even added some extra bits. You know, you can see I've added this little bit here, and again, you know, that's very simple to achieve. If I just click on my fill here, what I've done here is I've got my side of it, and then this second one here, I've set my opacity to 0. So basically, what that means is the color fades from a block color into nothing. So the color behind it kind of proceeds through. You know, I've added some little extra bits, you know, like this and all that, just to really kind of give it, you know, really kind of give it that 3D feel. Yeah. So that's it, guys. That's you know, some basic drawing in Illustrator using the pen tool and the shape tool, and then using the swatches, over here, the fill and stroke and the gradient to really go in and add some really interesting, in-depth, you know, sort of realistic color to really bring the object kind of out of the page. And also then we've looked at the pen tool as well. So remember, so I want you to, guys, I want you to trace the pawn of the chess pieces. I also want you to do the pen tool exercise and really go through that and really understand what the pen tool will do. And then when you're feeling adventurous, then maybe go on to a few more of these other shapes. Or if we go to Command O or go to File, Open, what we can do then is, if I go to Additional, you can see now I've got Super Mario or Toad, and you can use these, you could drop these in and try and trace those characters as well, yeah? You know, using, you know, the gradients, the strokes, the pen tool, the shape tool, all that kind of stuff. So, that's a really basic introduction to an Illustrator, guys. I hope you kind of find that useful. I hope you really understand what's going on here. And basically, when you're ready, move on to the next tutorial. Thanks, guys.